Hello and welcome back to my channel. I'm Susan Lynn. I'm a psychic and a medium. Thanks so much for tuning in. Today we're going to talk about, well, is Texas going to succeed and are 25 other states going to join them? What? You weren't ready for that? Oh, I'm so sorry. Let me back up and say, you guys sent in your political questions today, and I'm going to answer them. I am going to channel my spirit guides. Now, let me just tell you, this is for entertainment purposes only, and basically just assume I'm saying allegedly in front of everything that I'm about to tell you. Now, what's happening here right now in real time is I'm channeling my spirit guides 60%. Susan is 40%. In as much as I am wrong about what I say, it's because Susan, the 40% that is human, is wrong. Truth be told, if you're thinking, you're wrong. Thinking is great for like stop signs, making sure you file your taxes, showing up for work. That's all really important. However, if you're getting spiritual guidance, your brain will just basically F it up. Okay. Also, I just want to say that today is feeling like a cuss word kind of day, maybe because I'm drinking Death Wish coffee. What is it about these young people and death, right? I mean, what is it? Used to be we had smart water. Now we have death water. I don't get it. But I got to tell you, it's pretty good. Okay, now let's get started. Texas succession. 1, 2, 3, 4 questions on Texas and basically WTF Texas. So Jess says, is Abbott trying to create another Waco moment by thumbing their nose at the Supreme Court ruling? Good question, Jess. A. Chorister says, hope it's not too late to ask about Abbott in Texas. It's not, because I have Death Wish coffee on board. As a native Texan, I am appalled and hurting for everyone affected by the policies of him and his cronies. How soon do you see us being freed of him? I put this question in here because you need to understand Texas and Texans are not all for this, just like the 25 other states whose governors signed on to this craziness that says, screw you, Supreme Court, we're going to do whatever we want. Mary Louise says, do you and your guide see Texas becoming its own country? Within the next 10 years, they have their own army now. What I have learned during these Trump years is that the impossible can shockingly become possible. Honey, that's why this whole community of psychics appeared years ago on YouTube. I know a lot of you guys are seeing me for the first time and thinking, what the hell, psychics predicting politics? Oh yeah, we've been around for years in the trenches, I might say, predicting Trump was going to lose, predicting Biden was going to win, predicting the shutdowns. Are we 100% right? Am I 100% right? Hell no, I'm not 100% right. If I was 100% right, do you think I'd be talking to you right now? I'd be spitting out lottery numbers out of my mouth like tickets at Disneyland. Hello, I'm not 100% right. None of us are. However, if you follow our community, there's really good readers here in this little community we have that's like a freaking oasis in the middle of the worst Burning Man desert you can imagine. You'll find that on average, we're about 95% consensus on the big picture things, which is Trump is going to lose and other things. So are we always right? No. Are we often right? Yes. Have we brought calm to the lands? Yes. Unless we're drinking Death Wish coffee. This is one of those mornings because I currently live in Texas. So anyway, a few more questions. Let's see. Rita says, what's going to happen in Texas between the feud Abbott and the federal government over the wired fencing in the water? Okay, so here's the question. The question is, Texas said, we're going to put this floating barbed wire barrels in the Rio Grande, which separates Mexico from Texas, to keep people from coming over the border through the Rio Grande. This river is an important border demarcation, and Texas has taken it upon themselves to do whatever they think they need to do. Biden said, no, this is an international border. We're going to have the Supreme Court decide, which is a thing that Biden does. And the Supreme Court said, no, this is an international border. Step back, Abbott, stop being crazy down there in Texas. You're making all of us Republicans look bad. So what did Abbott do? He said he wrote a letter. This is what Abbott does. He writes letters. He said, no, forget it. I'm going to do whatever I want. Now, here we are today. 25 plus other states have said, we agree with Abbott, and we're going to send our own National Guard down there to the border to do what the federal government can't do, which is stop this, huge streaming people coming over the border, which is a bunch of BS. Anyway, okay, now what's going to happen? Without going too deep into this, I'm going to tell you that the 40% that is Susan is really freaked out about this. I mean, truly freaked out. I mean, what does this mean? We've got all these states signing off on this. Is this really a challenge to our Constitution? Is this really sort of the Civil War energy that the astrologers have been talking about? Is this really coming into reality right before our very eyes? And I would say, yeah, it is. It really is coming into reality right before our very eyes. But I would also say that there's something like 12 other times that the federal government has had to step in and basically SWAT the states, right? Step in and say, take a chill pill, whatever. You can't do this. Okay. 12 other times the federal government has said, you cannot do this. Your rights as a state don't give you the right to do this. So we need to have some perspective. This isn't the first time this has happened. Those were all between like 1965 and 1972. Civil rights energy, civil rights era. This is what the spirit guides have been telling you guys for a year or more. It's like we're going to go through the 1960s again. However, it's going to be 2024. There's lots of reasons for this. There's lots of astrological reasons for this. There's lots of energetic reasons for this. We're going to be repeating this energy. So here we are. The state's saying we don't have to integrate our schools, right? But in this case is we don't have to listen to the Supreme Court. Well, I'm sorry, but you do. And in this match, I'm pretty much going to put my money on the United States. These Texans, I'm not even going to go there. They can't handle this. They're not going to handle this. A lot of this is for show. It's like allowing your kid too much room for self-expression. You know what I mean? Like some of us grew up with self-expression being back-talking and getting like, really getting punished for that. And I think now we kind of allow our kids to have a lot of self-expression room. And this is kind of the same energy with the states. They're like, I'm going to flex my muscles and see how far I can go before the parent or the principal or the authority comes in the room and says, that's enough. You had your fun. I'm going to take away your toys and I'm going to put you in timeout. This is where we are. I feel like energetically, when I go into Biden's energy, that he perhaps is letting this play out too long for me, for my personal taste. I feel like he's creating bigger problems for himself. And maybe this isn't his, maybe in reality, right? The guides are saying he doesn't have as much power as we give him, right? So he went to the Supreme Court and he said, hey, you guys make the decision here. This is a constitutional issue. The Supreme Court said, oh, yeah, you're right. It's a constitutional issue. We're going to rule on this, and we're going to rule that Texas needs to stand down. Now, the ball is in Biden's court. What is he going to do with that ball, right? So what I see is the most likely outcome is that this just deflates, that it just becomes a non-issue. That's the most likely outcome. But when I stare off to the side, I'm getting information if you're new here. And there really is a possibility that Biden is going to have to send some kind of force to Texas. There is this possibility, and he can federalize the National Guard. Now, does Abbott have some sort of private military or some kind of state military that is not the National Guard? I think he does. Do you think that his little private Texan, come on, y'all. I mean, I live in Texas. I know y'all. I've been living here for like decades. I know y'all think you're bigger than you are. You're not the federal government. we're talking about Apache helicopters and Humvees. Okay. You're not going to be able to pull this off. Okay. With your dually F-250, it's not going to work. So, if Biden needs to stand up to them, he will. But I think this is a bigger shot across the bow for a bigger picture I'm going to talk about very briefly. Hopefully the guides are not going to take me down some rabbit hole. I know some of you guys enjoy it, but we're going to have to try to be have some brevity here. The bigger picture is, yeah, I think Biden's going to deal with this. And I think it's going to be, in the end, it could, there's a possibility that it could become what the guides are calling a conflagration. There's a possibility of that. Biden does not want that. He's not that kind of person. He's not that kind of leader. He's not that kind of president. He doesn't believe in a heavy-handed. He believes in working things out sort of in other ways. Like one way that you might think that he sent them a message. I know this is unrelated, but I'm telling you it's not unrelated because I'm in Biden's energy. Is his Department of Energy or whatever administration department is in charge of this, but basically they're saying Biden did it, paused, put a stop to, but paused this really big LNG, liquid nitrogen gas facility right in Louisiana. It's going to impact Texas and it's going to impact Louisiana. There were many, many offshoots of businesses that were going to be, let's just call them very profitable businesses, that were going to spring up from this new LNG port right on the Gulf. But Biden all of a sudden said, yeah, I'm thinking about that. I think I'm going to pause that because I'm running for re-election and my environmentalist supporters, they're against this. Well, that's one thing. But now I can swat Abbott and the Republicans. Now that's a no-brainer. That's a no-brainer. Paused. So, you've seen this before where Biden gave grants to states that were blue. Yeah, the man is vicious. Y'all think he's like a golden retriever. Sometimes I call him a golden retriever, but I don't think so. I think this man is a Chihuahua. And y'all know how I feel about Chihuahuas. So I wouldn't play with Biden. He may or may not send troops to the border, but that's just dealing with what he's got to deal with. He has a long memory, and he's going to make Texas pay for this. He's going to make those red states pay for this. Biden is a consensus builder. He's happy. He's happy to compromise. Too happy for me. But if you're not even going to compromise and you're just going to be a bully, well, then he's going to roll up his little sleeves. He's going to put his aviators on and Dark Brandon's going to show up and then you're going to get a lesson. So I don't think this is the end of our country. I don't think this is the end of our democracy. I just think that it's a shot across the bow. And I think it's something that Americans are going to have to make some choices about come election day. And I say Americans, I know I'm probably talking to a lot of Democrats, but it is true. There's a lot of people who are not Democrats or Republicans. They're simply trying to pay their bills. They're simply trying to raise their families. They're simply trying to start a new business. They're just trying to get by or achieve the American dream. They don't really give a flying, about politics. Well, these people are going to be the people, they're going to wake up this summer. This is what I see. They're going to wake up this summer. They're going to see the book banning. They're going to see these abortion problems, these women having health problems due to feminine health issues related to abortion. And they're going to see a horrible treatment of people on the border. I mean, look, put up a wall, whatever you're going to do, but to put up a killing machine in the water and hide it, this stuff was hidden in the water. This is not Texans. We're not like this. We're just not. And we're not going to really put up with this. What you're hearing is the 1% that have the loud mouths. Everybody else is going to go to the polls and vote for sanity. So that's when these governors are going to start getting their pink slips. That's when these Republicans are going to start getting their pink slips. And that's when we're going to figure out how we want to go forward. But in that process, in that process, there's really this sense of dissolving. And you guys that have been long-time watchers, last year, a lot of the stuff that I get is 2-3 months out. I don't know why, it just is. Maybe timing over there is different than here. But remember when the spirit guides kept saying dissolution? God, they said it like every video for months. Dissolution, dissolving. We are going to be dissolving the way we see things, the way we work with things, potentially even dissolving and then recreating our Congress, because the Republicans are going to be dissolved. I'm not saying that the Democrats are bad. I'm just saying they're going to be dissolved. They're going to fall apart. I did a whole video called The End of the Republican Party. You can find it right here on this channel. And I did it 6 months ago. So we're going to have some choices to make, you guys. We're going to have some choices about build back better, right? Or how are we going, if this isn't working, if this is not working, if our kids are not safe in schools, if we're not getting the health care that we deserve for the money we're paying, if we're not making enough on Social Security to live, if we can't have women be safe with their health around procreation, if we can't read the books that I read when I was a child, this is all wrong. Okay, we know this is all wrong, but now what do we want? So this is where things are going to get really dicey. When the caterpillar goes into that cocoon, it looks like a caterpillar, y'all. But in the cocoon, it looks like a pile of mush. It dissolves. It doesn't just snap and change costume into a butterfly. We are going into that cocoon where we're going to dissolve. We're going to have an opportunity in that process to decide what we want, to decide who we are. Who are we? Who are Americans? What do we want? It's almost as if we get an opportunity to go back to the beginning, the back of the founding of this country, and say, we effed that up real bad. Like this whole thing about race, screwed that up. Native Americans, screwed that up, right? Immigration, screwed that up. We realize we screwed all this up. We realize we started this whole country on a founding of principles that we don't even like right now. And yet some of us want to drag us back to the originalist, right? They want to drag us back to the Constitution or the Bible, the original version. Honey, I don't look around you and see if you can make the Constitution or the Bible fit even in your house. I'm talking to you via video right now on a cell phone. We didn't even have these things, right? So it's time. It's time for an upgrade. But in that process, there's going to be some real possibility for change. Change is not something a lot of us like, and change can feel scary. It can feel unsupported. It can feel all kinds of things. Most of us don't like those feelings. I'm just giving you the heads up. It's not going to be black and white. It's not going to be right or wrong. It's not going to be us or them. It's going to be a constant changing and morphing and switching and tumbling energy. So if you get too connected or it has to be this way, it's going to be a rough couple of years for you. Try to see the long game. Try not to see things like if somebody gets elected that you don't like or something happens that you don't like. That's for today. That's for today. That could all change in 3 months. Because I think the overarching energy is that we survive, that democracy survives, that we end up figuring out that we value each other. We love each other. And you know what? We don't want to be a bunch of punks. We don't want to be a bunch of jerks. We don't want that. We want to go back to the day, if there ever was one, where we valued each other and even valued our differences and didn't judge each other. So that's where we're going. That is the end result. However, We got to get there. Going to be a lot of talking, a lot of gnashing of teeth, a lot of crying. Truly. Truly. Because those people believe what they believe just as much as you believe what you believe. So how are you going to get two opposing forces to integrate? Well, guess what? You got to break down. And that doesn't mean there's no justice. It doesn't mean that. It means, what do Americans want for justice? What are our values? What are we going to get in the streets about? Because that's what's coming next. I've been telling you guys, we're going to get in the streets. Doctors are going to get in the streets. Nurses are going to get in the streets. Everybody's going to get in the streets. Teachers, students, you and me, pro-choice people, women, dads, moms, everybody's going to get in the streets. For the next 24 months, everybody's going to be in the streets. Why that makes sense is because everybody has a voice. This is the shaping of our new reality. We're saying, no, there's really more of us. We've just been too busy working or taking care of things. You know, there's more of us that are kind, that are gentle, that value each other. There's more of us, but we haven't been activated yet. And we are about to be activated. So this Texas thing, this bigger picture with 45, with the Republicans, it's going to change. It's going to be rectified, is what the guides want to say. But it is going to take a minute. Let me move on to a few more questions here. Oh, perfume therapy. Perfume therapy says, you have a question about the Supreme Court. Are they always just going to be above the law, specifically Thomas? I mean, this is exactly what the guides were just talking about. No, they're not always going to be above the law because it doesn't work. The guides are saying that doesn't work with our specific system of checks and balances. One of the reasons we have these different pillars of the executive branch, the judicial branch, the congressional branch, whatever you want to call them, is to be checks and balances, right? So that we don't have a runaway president. We don't have a runaway judicial branch. We don't have a runaway congressional branch, legislature. Now, the reason that we're in this situation is that obviously we needed to learn the lesson that the founding fathers, should have been mothers maybe, but anyway, they never thought, they didn't think that these branches would coalesce into one unit and anoint a king the way Trump wanted to be anointed. Now, I think we need to talk about the power of the Supreme Court, because the Supreme Court is also saying, I'm not giving up my power. I'm not going to give up my power. Forget that. I'm going to keep my power. So they're not going to kowtow to these states, right? They're not going to. They're going to say, no, sit down, Buster. I'm more powerful than you. But that begs the question, how powerful is the Supreme Court? How powerful should the Supreme Court be? Again, Americans get to decide these things, right? And the problem is that not only are some Americans too busy to trying to live their lives, but our media is broken. It is literally broken, just broken. And I think that going forward, we're all going to find media. We're going to find our own media the way you're watching me right now. You're going to find your own sources of media. It's going to be a little bit harder because we're going to have things like deep fakes, video fakes and different things like that. But we're just going to have to educate ourselves. We're just going to have to be more discerning. So going back to the Supreme Court, they're not going to be above the law. So I'm going to say this. To me, this is the answer to every single question. I really think this is the answer to every question you guys have, period, end of story. The spirit guides told me in the very beginning, because you can imagine, they call me dramatic. I am not dramatic. I just don't even understand that. But anyway, let's just say that I was being dramatic. And my spirit guides were like, sit down, take this paper bag, blow into it. You're going to be fine. And then they said, how we get out of this, because I needed an answer, right? Like 2 years, 3 years ago, 5 years ago, I needed an answer. I really did. Somebody needs to give me the answer how we get out of this. How we get out of this is through laws on the books. Okay, you can answer every single question with laws on the books. Now that goes back to the judicial, or they're saying judiciary. It goes back to the judiciary. We're going to get to this tipping point where these judges are going to read the writing on the wall, and they're going to be like, nope, I'm not going to jail. I'm going to toe the line, right? I'm going to toe the line. I see Eileen Cannon going out just for that very reason, right? So as far as the Supreme Court and anybody else, if you broke a law, you're going to be investigated. If the investigation warrants, you will be indicted. After you're indicted, you will get a jury of your peers court case. At that point, if you are found guilty, you will go to prison. Okay? This is going to be how we get through the next, they just said 10 years, which sounds like makes me want to be dramatic, to be honest with you. But anyway, this is how we're going to get through this time. Now, what does that have to do with Thomas and the Supreme Court? Hello. If he's broken a law, even if it's a civil, let's say it's civil or criminal, whatever it is, or let's say his wife Jenny has broken a law. Believe me when I say the energy of 2024 is take no prisoners. Basically, it is karma. It's you broke the law, boom. You broke the law, boom. It's very cause and effect. Maybe we've been in Mickey Mouse land where, people have like, oh, I'll let you off. I'll let you slide. I'll look the other way. Whatever's been happening. Well, it's over. Like the guide said earlier, the principal's coming down. Mom and dad are coming down to the basement where all hell's been breaking loose. And they're going to start disciplining whoever is causing the problems. So no, they're not going to be above the law. They're just not going to be. But we have to get to the place where Americans agree that there is a law and that the Supreme Court isn't going to be above the law. And I feel like right now, Americans are being gaslit because we think that because of these loud voiced MAGAs, that's the energy, right? Like they control everything. You guys, look at the primary that just happened. Look at the primary that just happened. They don't have any support. Pink slips everywhere, you guys. They don't have the support. And they know they're going off a cliff, but for whatever reason, they're just on the Trump train and they just don't have, well, there's a lot of reasons, but they, for whatever reason, they can't get off the train. Some of them have been blackmailed, truly. Some of them have been blackmailed. Some of them can't get off because of threats against their family. See case in point, Mitt Romney, who said when he was being interviewed for the book that he wrote, that after Jan 6, during Jan 6 and after Jan 6, he started speaking out against Trump. And many of the fellow senators said, hey, you shouldn't do that. You're really going to be in trouble. You should be worried about your family. You've got bigger concerns to think about. Just go along with whatever we're supposed to do. And Mitt Romney instead got $5,000 a day security, $5,000 a day security. And he said publicly on video, these members can't afford $5,000 a day, but I can. But he still stepped down. He still stepped down and has $5,000 a day security. So you can understand why some of these people are just going along with 45, because they have to. That doesn't mean Americans support 45. Okay, it does not mean that. It means that somebody's got them by their little neckties and is, yanking it. And they have to do what they have to do, including Mitch McConnell and Lindsey Graham and all of them. They're all bought and paid for, allegedly, or there's, blackmail, something going on there. Okay, I'm going to move on. Common Law NYC says, will the courts decide that presidents do not have absolute immunity? Will the courts decide presidents do not have absolute immunity. So here we are again, having to go to the courts to make a decision about presidents. And this is a deep question because it really goes to the fact that if we voted Trump back in, he has said publicly, the first day will be a dictatorship. He has said that. He has said he will go after his detractors. He has said he will put them in jail. He has intimated that he may bring back firing squads. Okay, this is what this man has said publicly. Now, with that being said, how do you square these states and these senators and these reps and these justices being pro-Trump? You see what I'm saying? Like, so now the Supreme Court has to decide, does he have immunity? And Trump says his argument is presidents have to make decisions, right? Like sometimes we have to assassinate somebody. Sometimes we just have to make a decision that is within our presidential powers. Well, that's true and not true, right? But here's the same thing, you guys. What will we decide our new constitution looks like? I know it's not a new constitution, but these are big changes. What is our new society? What these rulings shape the Constitution, because we banned assault rifles for many years. Well, that's a constitutional right, yet we banned it. But then the courts went back and reenacted it. Didn't that change the Constitution even without an amendment? It's whether the court says, yeah, we're going to follow this, or no, we're not going to follow this. So yeah, it really does affect the Constitution, how we use the Constitution. Are the courts going to, I feel like no, because again, the courts don't want to lose their power. If presidents have absolute immunity, then the court has no power. Do you think Thomas is going to give away his power to a president that has absolute immunity? No. Congress doesn't want to give away their power. The court doesn't want to give away their power. Nobody wants to give away their power. Well, that's a good thing because we need to have checks and balances. I don't see them saying that the president has absolute immunity. However, I will tell you that I think we're going to make some laws. We're going to start 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. We're going to be passing laws that are really going to change, truly, truly change our society. We will have to sort of get tighter about things because in many cases, you and I thought it was a law, and it turns out it was just a custom. It was just a tradition. We thought it was a law because all of our presidents have followed the custom and the tradition. Well, Trump proved to us they weren't laws. So back to what the guide said, what's on the books? That's how we're going to clear all this out. When somebody crosses that line, they're going to be indicted. And that's how we're going to get rid of these people that have decided they're above the law. That's how we get through this, is by the courts through the laws on the books. That's how we're going to clean it all up. Okay, so Divine by Zero says, will the 2025 Congress and Senate pass legislation stating that public figures and entities' First Amendment rights are only protected if they speak the truth? Basically, make politicians, news agencies, and public voices liable if they lie to their audiences. Well, this is where I'm talking to you guys about the gray areas. What am I doing? What am I doing right now? I'm telling you what the spirit guides say about this situation. Am I lying? Do I get things wrong? Yeah. Who are the spirit guides? Am I just making all this up? So this is a gray area. I'm in this area as well. Now, I'm not going to, hopefully not going to libel anybody, right? Public figures, we can say what we want to say about them. If you're in the public kind of domain, so to speak. If you're a celebrity, if you're a politician, there's some things that we can say about you that I could not say about Joe Blow down the block. That's libel versus being in the public figure domain. So and the detractors say that we can't do this because of social media, that we can't go back to the fairness doctrine because of social media. I don't think that's true. I mean, it is true, but we can do it in a new way. So what I see happening is we will have to do this, and it might mean that voices like mine are muted, and I'm okay with that if the entire if it really does the protection that it's supposed to do. So what that means is with these new laws, we may have to overcorrect. We just may have to. Again, remember, shaping and shifting and tumbling. We may overcorrect and go, oh, that was too far. Let's bring it back. There's this sense of we're in uncharted territory. We don't know. It really is this sense the guides are showing me of the founding fathers. Once again, it's like we're getting a chance to redo. We're a different place now. We have different attitudes about people. So I do think that we're going to tighten up free speech to a degree. I think that also, because a big problem that we have, probably the biggest problem we have right now, in my opinion, and the guide's opinion, is media. Media is being bought by countries that are not our friend, that indeed don't have free speech. Did you hear what I just said? Countries that don't have free speech are buying our media. Now, why do you think that is? Why do you think that is, right? Again, the guides are always telling you, America is the king of the hill. I don't care what anybody says. It is what it is. And as the king of the hill are being perceived as the king of the hill, there's always somebody that wants to knock you off of the hill. You're the target. You are the target. So they understand, these countries understand, buying our media is going to shape the thinking, the culture, the customs of America. You guys, this is the Trojan horse. Do you know what a Trojan horse is? This is the Trojan horse. They're going to ride that sucker right in the middle of our country and unload bots, unload disinformation. This is an attack. In many ways, it is a war. We're already in a war. Okay? And honestly, the Democrats have been slow to wake up to this threat. And it's a really big problem. So by the time we freaking wake up, Rip Van Winkle Democrat Party, we're going to have to overreact. We're going to have to really come with a heavy-handed solution. We really are. So I see some pretty big attempts at controlling media. We just have to. We have to, because we can't sort out the grays. The gray is where they're getting us. The gray areas is where they're getting us. The spirit guides always say they're using your own freedoms to attack you. Well, it's just freedom of speech. Well, it's just freedom of this. It's just freedom of that. Yes, it is. It absolutely is. So here we are. What do we stand for? Who are we? Where do we want to put the guardrails? You know, the Republicans have been feeding these citizens a steady diet of fear, fear of people who don't look like you, fear of people who don't have your same accent, fear of people who come from another country. That's what they've been doing with this media Trojan horse, through Tucker Carlson, through Rush Limbaugh, through all these places. They've been poisoning these people's minds on the down low. And now we're wondering what the problem is. So yeah, media is probably our biggest problem. And I'm not sure how we're going to fix that, because the media has all the money. or the people that have all the money bought all the media. So what they just showed me was, and it's the same thing I saw for Fox News, is I see Fox News being broken up. I see Fox News being broken into many, many different kind of smaller companies, a lot like they did when they take a monopoly and the government says this monopoly is too big, you've got to break up into all these smaller businesses. This is what I see happening to some of these big communication companies like Fox News, potentially even everything in the media. I was just seeing like movie, who are those people? Like Disney. I mean, I'm not saying Disney's going to get broken up. I'm saying that if you have a conglomeration, if you own too much media, if you're one billionaire that owns 5 media outlets, guess what? They're going to be looking at you in 25. They're going to be busting your media conglomerate up because you have too much influence over the majority of Americans. Number 2, I think we're going to stop Saudi Arabia and all these other countries from buying our media. See, this is not what Democrats are. Democrats are not protectionist. Democrats are, we're a big free country. We shouldn't, this is going to really throw Democrats into a bit of a conundrum, because we may have to say, if you're a foreign national, you can't buy land here. I mean, really, we may have to say that, because foreign nationals have been buying huge parcels of land around our military bases. Now, these foreign nationals are from countries that are communist. Are y'all seeing a theme here? Are y'all seeing a theme here? Because I'm seeing a theme here. So we've got to back up and take a look at what's going on and be honest with ourselves. And then we're going to need to pass some laws that may seem, the guides just said, the spirit guides just say, you're going to hear people say the word draconian. You're going to hear liberals say, this is a draconian law. This is not Democrats. Democrats don't do this. You guys, welcome to Democrat 2.0, because we've got to become more protectionist. I'm sorry, but it is the truth. They're using our own freedoms to take away our freedom. They're using our own freedoms to create civil unrest and potentially even trying to create a civil war. Bottom line, can't sugarcoat that. So what do we got to do? We got to get in there, bust it up, pass some laws, and get serious and say, no, Americans can only own media, or Americans can only own the majority stake in a media company can only be owned by Americans. Can you imagine a hue and cry if we passed a law like that? And you might be saying, Susan, who's to say Americans are any better than anybody else? Well, we may not be, but one thing's for sure, we live here. One thing's for sure, we work here. One thing's for sure is we get up and look our neighbors in the eye every day. We basically believe in the Constitution. We basically believe that we're a democracy. If your media company is owned by somebody who lives in a country where women can't drive, or where women have to cover their heads, or, think about the things the Republicans have been passing and associate that to certain countries. And now you can see where the influence is coming for these Republicans to pass these laws. Are you connecting the dots, y'all? Okay, we've got to cut off this foreign influence. And that is going to be really difficult thing for us to do. But we're going to have to do some hard things as we go into 24, 25, 26, 20, all the way to 28. And that is why the spirit guides keep telling you guys, what will Americans choose? To be honest with you, they say, what will the humans choose? Because this is a worldwide phenomenon we're going through. This dictatorship energy is a worldwide phenomena. And the spirit guides ask me all the time, what will the humans choose? It is indeed our choice. So that's what I have for you today. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you like this content, subscribe below and leave me a comment. Let me know what you think about this video, and take really, really good care of yourselves, because even though, the world seems like a 5-alarm dumpster fire, you still have to get up and drink your death coffee, take care of yourself, and go about your business. So even though you might think this overarching energy is terrible and horrendous and I don't know what to do, yeah, but you still have to take care of yourself. So bring your energy back here. What am I doing for me? How am I taking care of myself? How am I showing up for myself? Want to know why? Because when you show up for yourself, your energy is better. When your energy is better, everybody around you benefits from that. When your energy is better, everybody around you benefits from that. When your energy is better, everybody around the world benefits from that. We can't always be on the top of our game. We don't want to always be on the top of our game. Sometimes we just need to sit it out, sit on the bleachers, take a break. Just be gentle and be kind to yourself. That's all I ask. Okay? Take really good care, everybody. We'll talk soon. For entertainment purposes only.